in a row, getting their second revenge game in a row. And on top of that, against the New York Knicks. We're going to break it all down, talk about it, plus some more right after this.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls. Remember the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by no one, just us. That's Pat, the designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. Pat, the Bulls got a win over the New York Knicks on a last-second shot by Demar Derozan. How do you feel the Bulls played overall in this game?
I'm going to be 110% honest with you. And this is as somebody that's looking at this through the most crucified lens, right? Because at this point, I told y'all the Bulls don't not only have to go on a run before I believe it, but you have to be a significant amount above 500. We're talking about 5 to 8 games above 500 before I'm like, I'm 100% back in, right? They played great. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to say, what are you talking about? RJ Barrett cooked the Chicago Bulls in this game. I can't count the number of times where I said tough shot, tough shot, tough shot. DeMar DeRozan, who is Amar, Arnell, or Rosen? I'll give him the D. DeMar,
you said
I'll give him 2 Ds.
What?
What? Kobe. Tell me that. Never mind. But anyway, I'll that's on me.
That's definitely on you, bro.
Oh, the challenge out there. There's a challenge on the play. But no, hey, that's one of them challenges that you like. I know I'm gonna lose this one. Don't worry about it. Here's the thing. No, but I think right. DeMar really came out. He played within the defensive system really well, right? I think that the Bulls did a really good job of closing out on shots in this game. And you know what? Like I said, like we've said many a times, sometimes the other team that also gets paid to make shots, make shots. Shout out to RJ Barrett. There was a point in that game, end of game, coming down. He's driving, attacking the lane, puts up a 1-2 euro, bumps into Zach, gets the bump off, throws the float, makes it. He was making tough shots all night.
Yeah. I mean, and that's if you just judge good defense based off of the shot goes in or not, you're missing some things. RJ Barrett just hit some tough shots. He put on his DeMar impression today, and he just hit so many. There were so many shots where the defender was in great position, even had their arm up, and RJ Barrett was just knocking them down.
I put on a clinic tonight. He put on a clinic. And listen, here's the thing. Through great defense, he played great. Credit to RJ Barrett. But here's the thing for me about this win that gets me more excited about most of the wins we've seen. Through somebody playing great, the Bulls finally won. Through somebody showing out, the Bulls finally won. I have no problems with the fact that Chicago Bulls, how they played tonight. I thought the Bulls played really well. And sometimes the other team just plays better than you. I think the Knicks had a case for that if they come away with this win. I really do. I think the Knicks had a real case. Like, I'd have come in this post-game show if DeMar doesn't hit that game-winning shot, and I'd have said, listen, the New York Knicks played excellent tonight. They defended really well. They put up some tough shots. They made a ton of tough shots. They did a great job. DeMar DeRozan did knock down a game-winning shot. I can live with that. I thought the Bulls play on top of the DeMar DeRozan game winner gives me hope that this Bulls team is moving in the right direction. Right? Like, I'm not saying I'm there yet. I'm not saying I'm 100% bought in. I'm not saying, right, because just in the last game, right, we talked about DeMar, and I talked about DeMar and saying, hey, sometimes that solo offense doesn't get the job done. But you know what? In tonight's game, I said this is a game where you could take advantage of that. And DeMar did a good job of that. And you know what? We got to give credit to Zach LaVine as well. It's probably Zach LaVine's best game. Played really well defensively.
Defense, offense, passing wise. Yeah, Zach LaVine played a heck of a game. Only 3 assists. He's been averaging between 6 and 5 assists lately. Yeah. But in that 12 of 22 shooting from the field, 4 of 9 from 3-point range, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 33 points. Probably Zach LaVine's best game of the season so far.
And I mean honestly, right? Like I'll say this: played. I have to give credit to everybody that was involved in this win tonight. DeMar DeRozan did his best versus RJ Barrett. Didn't work out, right? RJ Barrett played well. Zach LaVine switches onto him in the second half. RJ Barrett still played well, but definitely did not play as well. And I thought Zach LaVine did a really good job switching on to him. I thought that was a big reason why the Bulls were able to close that gap and start to, and take the lead finally, right? Because all of a sudden, right, Zach has kind of taken this mantle of, hey, listen, when the pressure's on, you're not going to just dominate me. You're not going to blow me out the water. And I really like that. I think that we're starting to see our leaders play their role, and I think we can say that for all three Chicago Bulls tonight, or all three stars on the Bulls tonight.
And I want to focus this, at least first segment, I want to talk about some of the rotations and bench things next segment, but this segment I do want to kind of focus on that big three. DeMar in this game, coming up down the stretch, even on the possession before the last possession, they ran a play, he gave it up to Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine hitting a big shot in crunch time as well. How do you think the big three, again, the fourth game in a row, all over 20 points per game, they're fifth out of the last six, or like 6 out of the last 7 they've had this. How important do you think it is to this team playing this way with those three players contributing and playing like a big three?
I mean, here's the thing, right? No championship team ever looked and said, hey, why is J.R. Smith cooking right now? Yeah. No championship team ever looked and said, oh, my goodness, the role players off of the bench are the reason that we really got this win tonight, right? Like even the Warriors last year, at the end of the day, it wasn't, oh my God, Jordan Poole dominated this entire series, and that's why we took off. You need your stars to be your stars. Regular season, postseason, all of that. And you know what? If this team is going to get to that next level, you need your stars to be your stars. And I feel like they've taken on kind of a different mentality with it, kind of like Goran Dragic just said, being very sacrificial of their main shot. I think DeMar's kind of still tried to go after the one-on-one a little bit, but I feel like Zach has taken a very sacrificial role. I feel like Vooch is taking a very sacrificial role where he says, hey, listen, I'm willing to get guys the best shot that we can get them. To the credit of that, right? Zach LaVine driving down, closing minutes, kicking it out to P. Will for a game tying shot at that point.
I think
that would have been the lead. We might have been down 1.
I can't remember if that was when we were down 3 or down 1.
No, we were down 1, right? Because Brunson misses a pair. So that would have been the game leading shot, and New York would have had an opportunity for that. But right, like those are the moments where you look at your hometown player, your max player, and you say, why didn't you take that shot? That was an excellent shot. Being very sacrificial for the best shot you can get. I think we've seen that more since we had the whole blow-up situation from Zach, even from DeMar in some situations. I'm not going to act like he hasn't done it in totality. And from Vooch, right? And just saying, hey, you know what? We're going to make the best play to win games. Maybe not the best play for me to average 25 this season.
For sure. And I'd like to that it's the Bulls defense showed heart without some of their biggest parts of hearts on D, like missing Caruso, missing Javonte, missing Derrick Jones Jr.
Yeah.
This team showed some gumption and some heart on the defensive side of the ball where, they had some periods where the defense just didn't look good. They had some times where players were just hitting tough shots on New York. But I think I like the way that this team did ratchet up the defense when it was needed in a major way.
Yeah, 100%. And I thought that was a big thing for the Bulls coming into this, right? Like, I think the thing is, if you had come into this game for me and said, hey, we're missing Javonte, we're missing DJJ, and we're missing Caruso, and I would feel proud of the defensive effort that we gave tonight, I mean, like, I'd have told you you're nuts. Because literally, when we think about defensive plays, those are the players we think about.
Yeah,
but I thought Vooch played better on Mitchell Robinson. I thought that Billy Donovan coached a much better game for the style of team that we played, right? Like, it's not always about putting the best game plan in place. Sometimes it's just about putting the best bodies on the floor. And you know what? For the first time this season,
we're going to talk about it. That's the main part we're going to talk about in the next segment. I know what you're about to get into, so we're going to get into that. And I do like what we've seen maybe, and I still don't think it's going to be something we see a lot of, but we'll talk about that in the next segment. Yeah.
I don't want to.
But as a specialized lineup for sure. And we got to talk about it too. Before we get into the next segment, we're going to talk about role players. We're going to talk again at some point about the continued two-way play of Kobe White. So we're going to talk about that, talk about the lineup of Vooch and Drummond out there together and how good that actually looked. But first, I got to talk to you guys about Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Test drive the new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits in your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget about boring rentals and find your drive at Turo.com.
We want to thank you for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day, especially after Demar Derozan Game Winner. Make sure to make your second listen Locked On Sports Today, the biggest stories from around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reaction, game recaps, and Locked On's take of the day. Locked On Sports Today available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
So a lineup that you've been calling for, a lineup you actually called for when we previewed this game and said that this may be something that Billy Donovan needs to do to figure out that rebounding, playing Vooch and Drummond together. And what I can tell you with this, if nothing else, we'll see it against maybe some other teams, maybe Milwaukee, maybe Philly in the future. But I tell you what, Isaiah Hartenstein was completely taken out of the game by the lineup of Vooch and Drummond. What did you think about actually seeing that lineup come to fruition?
You know what? I loved it. I loved it, right? But I don't think it's – here's the thing. I loved it. But we know what we're going to hear, right? We know what – why don't you put Vooch and Drummond out there more? It doesn't work in today's NBA on every team. It just doesn't, right? We're going up against a Houston team next week. Next game. It's not going to work. You're not going to dominate that way. And you're not going to be able to get back defensively that way. But the one thing that I will say is there are select teams in this NBA you can do it against. When they play Julius Randle and they play Mitchell Robinson on the court at the same time, you can do it. When they play Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein, you can do it. When the Cavaliers play Allen and Mobley, you can do it a little bit more, especially with Mobley basically being relegated to a bench role in his second season. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, continue. That's
a whole different story, bro. Hey, listen, we'll talk about that on the NBA show, but they're crazy out here. But you're right. Like, I think there's certain teams that lineup works against. And you know what? The New York Knicks are one of them because Tom Thibodeau is very willing to play that 90s, early 2000s style of basketball. I thought that the Bulls did a really good job offensively using that lineup. I thought that you saw the dynamic that Vooch and Drummond can have together offensively. And so you realize that, right, like it's not just a useless lineup that you can throw out there and nothing's going to happen offensively. But I thought Vooch and Drummond played really well off of each other. And I thought, right, like the rebounding battle, I would have wanted to see a little bit more. I felt like they were a little bit confused occupying the space, but it's also just the fact that they're so big and they're both such dominant rebounders that while they were occupying the same space in some of those moments, it was kind of like the tip, oh, you're here too. And then they smack it back into the hands of a Bulls player. Like, and so it's going to take some time to get used to. The one thing that I love about this, though, is that what I know about Billy Donovan is he's not just going to throw a lineup out there and never use it again. He's not just going to throw a lineup out. Like Billy, even if the lineup doesn't look good, he'll be like, well, let's make sure it doesn't look good. Let's make sure it wasn't a chemistry issue. Let's make sure we can do some things to add to that. And so I love the fact that we saw this lineup tonight versus the Knicks. I think it's the perfect team to see this lineup against. And I thought they utilized it really, really well tonight.
Yeah, I liked it out there. Like I said, wasn't any glaring holes, like things that you would expect. The spacing did change some.
Spacing was
but
bad.
I do think spacing was bad, but I do think that seeing DeMar be more willing as a facilitator and Zach, who's been a more willing passer, can help kind of counteract that a little bit. You have to have both of them out there with them, I think, in that lineup. But at the end of the day, it's this, like you said, as a specialty lineup, as a lineup you go to against certain teams, or if you need a certain stretch or whatever it is, it wasn't anything that I saw in it that I'm just like, hey, let's not, because when we saw Tristan and Vooch, and I think we only saw 4 minutes of it one game, I was like, I never want to see that again. Yeah. Seeing it this game with these two players, it's more like okay, I can see the benefit of playing this against certain teams.
And I think, right, like that's the speak to Billy Donovan, a good in-game adjustment, right? I asked it, I made sure to ask it the second I saw it, right? I was like, I asked it in my live call, do y'all like he's doing these in-game adjustments like this? Because this is an in-game adjustment. Billy already told us he doesn't want to come into these situations and play Vooch and Drummond together. This was an in-game adjustment. And I thought that it was a really good one. I thought that it worked to the Bulls' advantage, more so than their detriment. I thought there were moments where I was looking at it and I was like, yeah, I can see why you wouldn't think this would work defensively. But again, it's a specialty lineup, and I thought that against this team, it's the best way that you can defend them. And it worked, right? Like to a certain extent, not to say I want to see it completely, but to a certain extent, I thought that, one, you took the guards out of the game because they didn't feel like, hey, I can just drive into the paint every time I want to. And two, you made it really hard for Isaiah Hartenstein to find that same hook shot that he killed us with in the last game, right? Like to find those same easy buckets that he killed us with in the last game. You know how Tom Thibodeau wants to play this game. The Chicago Bulls know how Tom Thibodeau wants to play this game. The NBA knows how Tom Thibodeau wants to play this game. And finally, we found a solution against that. And I'll say this, right? These are the games that break teams. These are the games where the Celtics, the Celtics really can't do much with it. They don't have as much big man depth. The Bucks, the Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks, right? Where all of a sudden you see the Knicks start to lose a lot of those games where big men are prevalent because the Chicago Bulls expose something that is very consistent that you can put out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if Billy Donovan actually unlocked kind of the downturn of the Knicks in this situation.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see how they turn. This wouldn't be the first time a team loses against us, and then we seem to take their mojo for a little while. So we'll see what happens. But to get back on the lineups and rotations for the Bulls this game, Billy Donovan only going 8 deep on the rotation. Now, the Bulls do have two days off until they play again on the 26th. But what do you think about the starters all being, except DeSumo, all being over 37 minutes, and then only going with Drummond, Dragic, and Kobe White off the bench? Do you think there should have been any other changes, or do you think he played the right players the right amount of minutes, considering injuries to Caruso, Derrick Jones Jr., and Javonte Green?
I think he played the right players the right amount of minutes, right? What I'll say is this. I know we want these young guys to play, right? Like we want them to. When you're a good team, I'm not saying the Bulls are yet. Again, they have to show me a lot. But when you're a good team, young players don't play like that. The young players don't just come into the game and all of a sudden you're throwing rookies out there. I understand that we've gotten used to seeing that, but we've sucked for a long time, guys. We have sucked since Jimmy Butler left Chicago. Since that time, Jimmy Butler's been to 2 Eastern Conference Finals, an NBA championship, and multiple playoff runs with different teams. Like, we've sucked a long time. So your young players shouldn't just get on the court. They should earn their time on the court. Now, if they earn their time, right, I have no problems with it. I think if Billy Donovan saw Dalen Terry cooking Zach LaVine in practice, he would say, hey, maybe I should put this guy in.
I agree with that.
I don't think that he's there yet. I think that's why we're seeing them go back and forth to the Windy City Bulls. Marko Simonovic, different story. He's recalled. Yeah. He has to know the system at this point. There's no way he doesn't. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
They didn't send him the correct playbook because Billy Donovan doesn't know who he is. I keep telling you that.
The playbook says on the front, it says Chicago Bulls playbook, Jim Boylan. Wait a minute. Hey. He's not coaching the team anymore. Is he an assistant? Did I miss? When he became an assistant? Oh, we had that in storage, bro. Man, how you get that, bro? Blow the dust off of that.
That is hilarious, man. That's funny. All right, and the play of Kobe White. I said we're going to talk about it a little bit. Continue two-way play from Kobe White. How do you feel Kobe played this game?
Listen, I think that's a great topic for us to get into in the third segment. But just the play of the bench, right? The play of Kobe White. The play of I feel like Kobe comes into this game, and the uselessness that we once felt is no longer there. There were so many. Like, I want y'all to understand, when we said Vinnie Johnson is the microwave for a reason. If he was hot, you left him in. If he wasn't, he did not play. And we'll talk about
It
that
really
more.
was that simple. It really just was that simple.
We'll talk
But go
about
ahead.
that more in the third segment, man. But before that, hey, if you wanted to bet on the player Kobe White coming into this game, BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds, trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from the NFL to college bowl season, NBA to the upcoming MLB season. They've got it all over at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. They are the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline. It's where the game starts.
All right, Pat. So going into December, the Bulls got the Houston Rockets up next, and we can talk about that game. But coming out of December, going into January, it gets real tough for the Bulls for basically the first 2 weeks of the year. So we got Milwaukee, Detroit, then Cleveland, Brooklyn, Philly, Utah, Boston, and then Washington. And then we go to OKC, and then we got Golden State. So basically first 2 weeks of January, pretty tough stretch. The Bulls' most difficult stretch left for the season. They have some difficult back-to-backs after that, but nothing like too crazy. Do you think the Bulls will be at 500 or above by January 15th? And that's when we play the Golden State Warriors.
How many games are we below right now? We're 6 games
right
below?
Now we are 4 games below 500.
4 games below 500. We have 6 games to get back to it.
Yeah.
No, but give me the games again. Give me the games one more time.
Houston.
Oh,
We're going to go through a win or loss
I'm
one
going
by
to
one.
say L.
Houston.
I'm going to say L.
All right. Milwaukee.
I'm going to say L.
Detroit.
Dub.
Cleveland.
Dub.
Cleveland again.
L.
Brooklyn.
Dub. I got us 3 and
Philly.
3 then. Dub. I give us a dub versus Philly. I think we finally get
Utah.
one. Utah. I give us another dub. I think we match up well against them.
Okay. Boston.
Okay, now it sounds crazy, but I'm going to say dub again. Now it sounds nuts. I'm not going to lie. It sounds nuts.
Washington.
How far are we going? Jesus Christ.
Washington.
Dub there.
OKC.
I'm going to give us an L because we tend to lose to those teams.
All right. And Golden State as the final there.
Where's it at? It's here?
In Chicago.
Dub.
So that means over the next 12 games,
2 and 15
over
on
the next
road.
12 games, you have the Bulls going 8 and 14. You know that what that will put us
Above
at?
500.
Above 500.
Above 500. Now listen, here's the thing. I be wrong sometimes. But what I will say is this, right? Like I think the Bulls are kind of getting into their groove. I think Houston, I think the Bulls will be one of those teams that will lose games, right? They'll get on a run and they'll be like, it's okay if we lose this one. Right, like I do see that still being an issue this season. So I do think that we'll lose some of those games, like I said, versus the lower competition. But above the top competition, the Bulls have not played poorly this season. Who are the teams that we've lost to this year? We got blew out by Cleveland one time. That's a tough loss, right? But for the most part, we've competed with every team that's a top team in this NBA. We've gotten up for every game that has been a top game in this NBA. Like legit, like the only games that I look at the Bulls and I'm like, what is going on right now? OKC, Orlando, who's also beaten quite a few teams. In the
Phoenix.
Well, Phoenix. But here's the thing. I expect Phoenix to play well against us. Now, I thought we were lifeless. I got beef with that. But I expect Phoenix to play well against us, right? Like, I think the thing for me with the Bulls team, with this Bulls team this season is that the subpar competition we've played either equal to or below.
That's fair.
And so I still see that being somewhat of an issue, but I think that now we're getting on a stretch where we're playing a lot of the top competition. Like the Bulls get up for Giannis, right? Like here's the one thing I can tell you right now. Alex Caruso missed the night. It's probably because he's prepping to come back versus Milwaukee. I would almost guarantee Alex Caruso's not going to play tomorrow either. All right, when is it? Sunday? Sunday, right?
We play Monday.
Monday. I would almost guarantee that he's not going to play versus Houston. Because he's probably going to be like, I have to make sure I'm ready versus Milwaukee because that's the game I care about because that's the team we might see in the playoffs. Cleveland kicked our butts. Bulls are on a revenge tour right now.
Yeah.
He's probably going to want to be there for that game, right? So I think there's certain games where the Bulls are going to absolutely get up for that are the top of the Eastern Conference type games. And I think sometimes when you do that, you sleep on the teams that you should beat in a lot of people's minds.
All right, that's fair. I guess we'll see the Bulls have the next 4 games at home, too. So they get to get some home cooking for a while. For the rest of the year, they don't play another game outside. They don't play a game outside of Chicago until January 2nd. So they're at home for the rest of the year.
I mean, listen, that sounds great. And you know what that does, though? I'll say this, right? And we didn't really get into Coby White's play in this third segment, and I do want to get into that. But you know what it does? It does something for players like that. Coby White plays better probably when he's in Chicago, right? Coby White has can we see his home and road splits? I'm sure they have that up there.
1 second.
I would assume that Coby White's a better player in Chicago because he's at home. He feels better. He gets the home crowd behind him.
Yep, you'd be actually wrong on that.
Am I really? Okay.
It did, yeah. Surprisingly, I thought you would have been right. So at home, he's played 10 games at home. He's averaged 17.8 minutes in those games. He shot the ball 33% from the field and averages 5.4 points per game at home. On the road, however, he shoots 43% from the field, 40% from three-point range, and averages 10.1, almost double. He averages better on the road.
Hey, Coby, I went to bat for you, and you let me down, brother. I went to bat for you, and you let me down. That's tough. Well, what I will say is, in general, right, you would think that more players would play better at home. And I think the Bulls' play this season has shown that, right? They're 7-7 at home this season, 500. They're 7-11 on the road. So a home stretch is going to be a good thing for the Chicago Bulls here. Hopefully, we can continue to build on what we saw tonight in the Garden. And bring that back to Chicago. And I think that that's something where you'll start to see your bench play a lot better. And really, those are the moments, right? Those home stretches are the moments where you want to see Coby White, or I'm sorry, Dalen Terry and your young guys get more run because you want to get that home crowd behind them. You want them to feel comfortable, right? You don't want it to be they miss a shot and the away crowd is laughing. So for me, right, I think that's a big thing for the Chicago Bulls coming into this. And hopefully they take advantage of it. I think Coby's played really well this season. Defensively, I think he's done some really good things. I think these are the moments, especially coming up in this season, at least coming into the month of January, where you can see a ton of growth that can set you off in the right direction. And that's what I want to see from this Bulls team, man. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think also the thing that we've talked about before on this channel, that what you can do at home that you can't necessarily always do on the road is actually practice on some things. You get some shoot-arounds up when you're traveling a lot, but not necessarily full practices. So I'm excited to see what the Bulls look like getting some full practices under their belt and see what that does for the team and to continue to build upon this really improved overall team play that we've been seeing here lately.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Over this stretch, right? This is a 3-game win streak, and I don't want it to be slept on, guys. Like, I need y'all to understand, we haven't had a 3-game win streak with Zach LaVine but 2 times. So this is a 3-game win streak right now. Bulls offensively are playing much better. I think we're seeing more of a system. Defensively, they're starting to move in the right direction as a whole. What's been the part of this team that you've seen turn around, at least in 3 games, that you've said that's the reason why they look like the Bulls team we expected to see?
The moving the ball around and also the defense. Them giving consistent defensive effort. Yeah, it fell off a little bit in the game. Caruso went down, but they were still able to bring it back in and crunch up. The defense is not failing this team as much as what it did before. They're still giving up runs. I would like to see that go down, but like you said, it's a game of runs.
You're gonna give up a run. You're gonna give up
a run in NBA games. It's just gonna happen. But it really is the sharing the ball, the big 3 playing like a big 3, but also just everybody, for the most part, doing what they need to do defensively.
I think the biggest difference that I've seen, and it's not even just, and of course, right, the defense and the runs, those definitely play into it 100%. Yeah. The biggest difference that I've seen is that over these last few games, the Bulls have gotten down the percentage that they're allowing other teams to get dramatically or from the three-point line as a whole. Now, teams are still draining shots. I don't know what it is about when they see the Bulls and they're still knocking shots down. But the 3 points made, while it's still the bottom of the league, we were at one point at 16 3-pointers made a game. We're now at
for the opponent?
For the opponent, yeah.
Okay.
We were like 16.7 going on 17 3-pointers made. We're now at 13 3-pointers made a game. Moving in the right direction. That may not seem like a lot, but 9 points is a big difference when you're coming down to close games.
Absolutely. And I think the Bulls can continue to improve that as well because they are running and trying to close out on the three-point line way, but even in times where they get beat, they are trying to close out on that wave better than what I've been seeing before.
Yeah, and it's consistent, right? It's not just the second and third quarter. I think it's pretty consistent with this team. And I think that's the biggest key to this team moving forward. We've talked about this team. How many times have we said the Billy Donovan quote? Consistently inconsistent. The last 3 games, the Chicago Bulls have been consistently consistent. I think there's been moments where what we've wanted to see has fallen off, but it has not been the game, right? Even last game, I had beef with DeMar. I think DeMar sent us into overtime. I do. I think that we would have won that game outright if DeMar didn't take the one-on-one play. But Billy Donovan, Zach LaVine, the rest of this Bulls team did enough to get you to a point where even if DeMar misses that shot, I know a lot of people were down on that, but even if DeMar misses that shot, we're going to overtime again. Right? Like it's not that the Bulls lose. We're going to overtime. Closing out that game. You don't know how you close out the game. The Bulls haven't been very good in that. But we're going to overtime at a minimum, right? So and tonight, DeMar's able to redeem himself and show you why you go to him in those moments. Don't forget, like I understand we've had some tough moments here this season. Don't forget, Demar Derozan is one of the best. I need to fact check that. I need to make sure he's still up there because he's missed quite a few, at least the last few we've seen. But I believe he's still up there historically in fourth quarters or clutch time buckets made.
Oh, for his career?
I think so, bro. I think he's
for sure.
I think he's one of the top 10 for clutch buckets made.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, listen, I know there's a lot of times, like even tonight, Ringo was like, go to Zach. You got to go to Zach. You got to go to Zach in this moment. They go to DeMar. DeMar makes it count. DeMar shooting the same shot he always shoots. He's not changing the shot he shoots, right? Like, I think going to DeMar, I will say this. I think there's moments where going to DeMar for the three-pointer, I would disagree with that. Because
that was a bit of a weird call.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I wouldn't want to see that. But going to DeMar for a mid-range jump shot to put you up for the win or to tie the ball game, 100%. He's that guy. That's what he's been his entire career.
That's it. All right, bro. Go ahead and close this out, man, unless you got anything else.
Nothing else, man. Bulls get the dub. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. Make sure to follow us both on on Locked On Bulls. Make sure to follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Appreciate y'all for showing love as always, man.
And you can follow me at CEO Haize at CELHAIZE. And thank you for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check on Locked On Sports today. Peter Bukowski brings you the biggest stories from around the sports world in 20 minutes. Get the analysis and opinions before anyone else with our local and national experts and insiders. Locked On Sports Today podcast available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This is Locked On Bulls. Peace, y'all.
Peace.